What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson. We're back again with another live stream where I screw up my greeting in the IRC chat, as you can see on the live chat buffer on the side here, and get together on Fridays and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week. And this week is no exception. Yes, that's what happened. I totally screwed up the intro because I screwed up the chat. That's okay, though. Let's see. Wait for some folks to filter in here. And while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and try to get some show notes started. I need to kill the stupid, what is it? Gamma step? Gamma step. Kill gamma step. Terminate. There we go. Now I can actually see my screen. Great. You can't see that, but on my screen, like the color temperature or the brightness was way down. I couldn't tell what I was looking at. So hello. Nice to see everyone. Let's see if I can get some show notes going in this thing. So systemcrafters.net, find directory, live streams. There we go. So November. What year is it? I know it's not November. You don't have to tell me that. I'm just looking for the last stream notes. 7 Days a Schemer, a horror genre graphic adventure game. That sounds about right. Okay, so December 5th. This year's almost over. Can you believe that? It's insane. It's after midnight in China. Well, thank you for being here. I mean, that's kind of late. I'm gonna see if I can hear the music a little bit better. All right, let's get this in here. So, what is this? A Lisp? No, it's not a Lisp. A scheme in 7 days. Is that what I called it? Speedrunning a scheme in 7 days? Okay. December 5th. It's nice when you get to watch somebody just typing something they should have typed before the stream while you're just sitting here patiently waiting for me to stop being disorganized. But I appreciate your patience, as always. There we go. Now, I think there was something that still needs to be mentioned. Oh, yeah, that needs to be mentioned. Cool. Hello. How is everyone today? We had a nice day today. Apparently, there was a rainstorm that the government thought was so strong that they shut down all the schools. So my kids were home all day today. So me and my wife were trying to work while having screaming 2.5-year-old and precocious 7-year-old home the whole day. So that was fun. And I'm kind of tired. You can actually see the tiredness here. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about something I've been working on for the last week. It is related to last week's stream. Kind of took a lot farther than I intended to, but I don't know. I was having fun. And we'll see the results of that in a moment. Let's see. Dave says, I'll do my usual thing and link some cool news stuff. Thank you. I really appreciate that, actually. What is this? Modal.cx, if I can type, blog. Jeez, I can't type. Blog. What is modal? It'd be nice if I could just copy and paste that. What is it? But what is it? But what is it? But what is it? I saw Gnu Taylor in there. They should say in the first paragraph what this is. I'm back to Vim motions. I'm not. What made you think I am? Oh, modal. Let me go to the actual webpage so I can see what the hell this is about. Independent collective building emancipatory software for an uncertain world. Okay, cool. Secure free operating system. Native GTK note-taking app. All right. Anybody we recognize in this? Maybe not. I don't know. Seems cool. I like the style. Modals work with overlap with spritlys. Okay. All right. Oh, this is a better page to look at. Secure free desktop. Okay. Phones without monopolies. Local first collaboration. Cool. Ecosystem of respectful apps, hardware longevity, image-based OSs. Image-based. What does that even mean? Data sync layer. Okay. Seems cool. Nice. I'll put that in. Whoa, there's more. Post-internet. Ooh, what's that mean? When we say post-internet, do we mean post-Cloudflare? Because apparently Cloudflare is the whole internet. They were down briefly again today. I don't know if you saw that. Maybe it was shit. Maybe it was before you woke up. Those of you in the United States, but it happened to me. I just spilled tea on myself. If you're wondering what happened. All right. Respect for attention. I love attention, though. I respect the attention, but I love it. So what can I say? You gotta love it so you can respect it, right? All right, so I'll put this in the notes. Thank you, Dave, for bringing it up. I'll have to read it and see what that's about. Check out this blog post by the Modal Collective. I was trying to get my own thing started called the Lambda Syndicate. Because I like to make things that sound a little bit evil in a way, because it makes me laugh and it's fun. But it never got off the ground. Image-based is synonym for immutable distros? Maybe. Lambda Syndicate is an awesome name. I think I actually have a domain register for that too. All right, let me stop screwing around and say hello to the people who are here so far. Hello to... If I get my thing... I can't do page up in this stupid... thing. Okay, once again. Okay, if I miss your name in the IRC chat, it's because I can't scroll up the damn buffer. Hello to Ashraz, to Technomug, Big Edie, Cow, Auntie, Dave, Peter, No Namer, Artie. I'm using profanity as an XMPP client, and I'm sure there's a way to scroll up in the buffer. Hello to Bichal, but I don't know the key binding right now because I barely use it. And also to Tomas over on the YouTube side, and to Leo. All right. Anyway, Lambda Syndicate, one day. Dave says, here's the collaborative note-taking app for GNOME. Oh, okay, so it's like Notepad, but it's collaborative. That's kind of cool. If I can find which computer my cursor is on right now. I'm still using the Happy Hacking Keyboard Studio, and it's awesome. And the problem is that if I have 3 computers I'm switching between using the key binding on the thing, I forget which computer I'm looking at any given moment. Okay, that's cool. Basically a Notepad app with collaboration built in. That's sick. What is it using? Is it using... Okay, it's using CRDTs. I know all about CRDTs because when I worked at GitHub... I mean, I don't know the algorithms and stuff, but I know all about them because I worked on this thing called Teletype, where I worked on a team who was working on this thing called Teletype, which is basically a CRDT-based collaboration tool built into the Atom editor. And if you didn't know, that's basically the genesis of the Z editor, because the same people who wrote Atom and Teletype are writing Z. So there you go, a little bit of history. So yeah, CRDTs are a thing, and apparently they're pretty good. Dave says, tag yourself, I'm Blue Pig. I wasn't really involved in it. I was on the team that was doing it. I was doing other things like making Atom build and distribute on Linux and things of that nature. Also working on some of the IDE functionality. So not really so much on the cool stuff. I was just doing other things. Left Pad, I missed you again. Yeah, probably because I'm trying not to invoke your ire. Okay. Any other news this week? The other thing I will mention is that the Black Friday discount apparently is extended, at least until I remember to turn it off. So, you know, a number of people have taken advantage of that over the past week, which I'm really thankful for. I'm actually surprised at how many people bought the course. But this is the hands-on Guile scheme for beginners course that I made. I was doing it last year, and I think I recorded it. Was it last year? Maybe it's a year old now. Anyway, it's a course where I run you through how to program in Scheme fundamentals plus functional programming fundamentals, and then how to use Guile scheme for practical programming applications. And it's a lot of fun, and it's $50 off right now as of the Black Friday deal. I mean, who cares? It's just, you know, holiday discounts, whatever. That's what it is. If you want to learn about Scheme which we will be talking about quite a lot today, then you can go check out that course. I'm kind of motivated to maybe make another one at some point, maybe a more advanced one, or maybe just something else. I don't know. I'm kind of getting the itch to work on courses again because it's fun to make that stuff. And it's been a while since I made a legitimate video. Cal says, been watching too much questionable hackers on YouTube instead of doing anything useful, and now I know all the memes. Yeah, Cal says, when I worked at GitHub, is this channel's when I worked at Netflix? Yeah, not so much, though, because I don't mention it all the time. Or more like, when I worked at Blizzard. You've probably heard that one before. No Geeks Gang video today? Nah, I'm trying not to bring up too much AI stuff all at once. That Geeks Gang was pretty funny, though. Okay. No Number says, I petitioned for when I worked at GitHub to be mentioned at least every 2 minutes. No, I'm not going to do that. There's no point in doing that because I haven't worked there since like 2019. So what's the point? It's been 7 years, almost 6 years. Yeah, 6 years since I worked there. So I can't really say much about my experience there other than I had been there at some point. And I was there for 1.5 years and I decided I didn't like it so much. So I left. You would be a Thor to do that. Yes, I would be a Thorable. Forget I said that. Okay. Very misguided things. So, since there's no other... wait, hold on. Tunamog put a link in. Oh, thank you to Auntie for putting another thing in the chat. So I need to be paying attention to the chat instead of rambling. Shepard... if I can type, there we go. Where is the actual site? Is it on the site? Is this the damn domain name? There ain't no way that's the domain name. It is the domain name. Okay, fine. News. Let's go to the actual news post. Hurting the Codeberg. That's pretty awesome. I'm happy to see a lot of the Guile projects. Guile-related projects moving on to Codeberg because Codeberg's a nice place. What? Got it. So they're going to be owned by Geeks Foundation. That makes sense. All right. So GNU Shepherd was released 1.0.9. What was the improvements? There's a few things in here. I'm hoping that one of them fix an issue that I keep having with user-level services hanging and causing... me not to be able to like use GPG agent and other things like that. There's some really weird stuff going on with Shepherd sometimes when I use it with Geeks Home. But I don't know. I'm happy to have Shepherd as a thing. Oh, there's also Guile. Guile released an update and actually has quite a lot of stuff in it. Why didn't you mention that, Dave? Guile had an update and it's a lot of stuff in there. Or at least it seemed like a lot of stuff. I mean, I look at the list here and a lot of this seems, you know, pretty useful. Sorry. Aren't you like the guy on that project now? I'm just kidding. So Guile 3.0.11 has been released. I forgot too. I only saw it just now because I don't know why I remember. Oh, because this link right here. That's why I remembered it. Shepherd 3.0.9 has been released. I'm just gonna do the release mail thing here. Is that the same link? That's the same damn link. Is that right? What? Hold up. Okay, one of them is 2 and one of them is 3. Got it. So this is the right one right here. All right. There we go. Peter says, now seriously, GTA 6 or R7 RS large? Probably GTA 6. I just don't think that R7 RS large is going to happen anytime soon. No matter how much Daphne works on it, I think that that's a large undertaking. Ice Cold Witch says, yeah, the Guile release has been good. It looks good. A lot of stuff in there. Peter says, didn't Thor leave Blizzard longer ago? Yes, I think so. But he kept harping on that as long as he could get some mileage out of it, which, you know, seemed to work pretty well for a while. Okay, today, let's not belabor the point. So last week, I talked about how I started, I guess the same day. I think the same day I had started just kind of playing around with just having Claude Code generate an R7RS compliant scheme implementation for me, just for fun to see how well it would go. And it went pretty well enough that I think code was being evaluated by the time that I brought it to the stream last week. I can't remember it at all. Like, it's been a kind of a blur. So I've been a little bit obsessed with that since then. And I was like, okay, how far can I really take this? Like, how far can I push it? How much can I get done in the span of a week? Just to kind of check back in and see and see what can be accomplished and whether it's worthwhile to do it. And also whether AI can legitimately write a non-trivial program like a self-hosting scheme compiler with a standard library and advanced features like continuations and other things. Trev says, hey man, you're looking rejuvenated today. What's your AI regimen? Nah. Hello, Treve. Racket 9 was released. It has proper parallel threading now. Well, there you go. There's that whispering voice again. Which one is that, left pad? Which one is that? 9.0? Is that what it is? 9.0. Hello, eyeball. Racket 9 is released. Racket version 9. Is that a blog post? There we go. Good. The one from Beyond the Grave. What are we talking about? Parallel threads. Racket has had green threads for some time. It supports parallelism by futures and places. Parallel threads is a major addition. Well, yeah, no kidding. Having actual threads can be useful. So I'll put that into. Racket 9 has been released. There we go. We're the release log today. Something like Jeff with a hard sound at the start. Man, you're going to have to be more clear than that because my brain is totally fried. So I'm not getting the references. Hey, RetroPixel. So anyway, I did it. I spent way too much time on this because it was fun. What, Trev? And now you're going to see the result of that. So I'm trying to think the best way to approach discussing this, because it is kind of a thing that people aren't so crazy about talking about, you know, making things with AI. But here's what I think. If you have an idea for something that is pretty large in scope and is like going to take you an extremely long time to do it yourself, which I've done this before. I've tried writing mesh from scratch and I worked on it for months. It takes a long time to write your own compiler toolchain and ecosystem and get everything together. I had been using it. It actually does work to some degree. I was using mesh and game jams a couple years ago on Flux Harmonic. But, you know, like, you can't really do it justice if it's just you and you're trying to learn everything about writing a compiler and all that kind of things at the same time. So it's always been in the back of my mind. It's something I wanted to do again, right? Like, I like the idea of being able to make a language and compiler, not necessarily my own, because I'm basing everything on Scheme, but at least the tool chain and the motivations for it and the scenarios that I want to use it in are kind of my own. And I've talked about it a number of times on the channel that there's a number of different Scheme implementations out there, and not really any of them hit me exactly where I need, you know, the way that I want to. None of them satisfy the goals that I have, let's say. Like, they don't perfectly satisfy the goals that I have. So why not make my own? And now that there's AI out there to do a lot of the hard work for me, which really doesn't mean like the thinking work, because I did quite a lot of thinking and driving in this process. But the actual writing of the code part could be done by an AI slave. So I tried it. And what I can say is it works. Like, the process works. Like, the program works fine. It works pretty well. We're going to see it in a minute. But the overall experience was that the latest models actually do work pretty well for implementing difficult things. Like Opus 4.5 did a really good job. Now it does get stuck and goes in circles sometimes, and you have to step in, especially if you know more than it does about its particular topic, and I happen to know a little bit more about implementing a scheme implementation than it does. It does know a lot, but there are some things I had to kind of coach it on. So, you know, it doesn't do everything for you, but it does a lot. And you can guide it pretty well in the direction you want it to go in. So that's basically what I did, is I tried to start the project off like I did last week, just with the basics, but then kind of really push it to the limits and see how far I can get. So we'll see that in a minute. Let's see. Would be interesting to see a scheme that targets GPU. And Dave says scheme itself doesn't really map to how GPUs work, but using scheme-like syntax to write shaders is something I've been interested in, but haven't gotten too far with. Well, you did, though, didn't you? Like, you wrote a whole syntax that does it, I'm pretty sure. Peter says, Racket is more of a language laboratory than a language. It is multiple languages, has multiple languages that are scheme-based. Yes. You had a prototype. Well, I mean, it worked. It seemed like it worked. There's a lot of stuff that will work well, I think, with scheme syntaxes, like being able to compile to something else. Statically typed with Hindley-Milner type inference. See, that's nice. I think you should continue that. All right. So let me just show you then the repository. I've renamed the project to Sigil. Why did I do that? Well, because I kind of wanted to keep Mesh its own thing, because I spent a lot of time on it and it's kind of close to my heart as a project. And also because when you say Mesh, nobody will know how to type that into a computer because they think M-E-S-H whenever it's completely different spelling. And also, I would have to pronounce it Mish or something like that, which sounds ridiculous if I wanted them to get even closer to spelling it. So Sigil is a bit easier. And as Dave mentions, because you like the John Romero Doom expansions, I never played them, but yes, a link to Doom is not a bad thing. Trev says that there is no AI-generated logo for Sigil that looks like an esports team logo, that I'm leaving. No, there isn't one, and there won't be one like that. But yes, anyway, I thought it was a cool name, and it's an interesting project for now. I'm going to see if I can use it for some things. But it is a programming language designed for building standalone applications in games. It prioritizes developer experience, debuggability, and cross-platform deployment, which sounds a lot like the stuff I've been talking about forever, right? What I want is a scheme that will allow me to build a statically linked executable with all of the precompiled bytecode modules bundled in. And I basically got that working already in Sigil. Well, the static compilation part isn't done yet, but that's really just a matter of hooking up Muscle C as a compiler to compile a statically linked standalone application. That's not really a hard thing. The more important part is doing the bundling of all the modules onto the app. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, there's two reasons. One is maybe there's a tool that you want to distribute to people and you want them to be able to run it on any Linux distribution without them having to install a whole standard library somewhere on their machine, or auxiliary files, or even like have the normal Linux file system hierarchy with the loader libraries in the same place. Maybe you just want them to be able to run something like on Geeks without having to set anything up, right? Peter says, remember, Sigil has nothing to do with the cult. That's right, it has nothing to do with the cult, because it's not a cult. Yes, so making standalone applications, great for games. That's the idea, is that it should be easy to distribute games written with this, because I like making games. I like doing game jams. I think some other people in the community like doing game jams with Scheme or Lisp. So it'd be cool if you could write your code and then have it be pretty easily distributable to other people to run on their machine, and also on the web, because if you write a program like this, it's fairly easy to compile it with Emscripten to work in the browser. So it checks all the boxes. Compiling for mobile also would be a goal, like Android and iOS, mainly because I would like to I have ideas for things I would like to put on mobile. I just haven't been able to do it yet. RetroPixel says, no cult. I put on my robe for nothing. Yes. Well, that part comes later, I think. Goals, standalone distribution, build applications that users can run without installing anything. Developer experience, REPL-driven development, and with informative, recoverable errors. Cross-platform, small and fast, minimal binary size with quick startup. Yes. An AI agent is already working on a side geeks. Yes. No, we're not doing that, okay? There's no point in doing that. So it's a self-hosting implementation, the comprehensive standard library. It does have a lot, okay? Let me just, should I say all this? Who cares about NAND boxed values? And it says with Whippet GC, which really isn't the case anymore. So I have Whippet in the source tree. I was going to use Andy Wingo's Whippet for this. Started getting it to actually wire up the GC stuff, and it was making things a lot more complex than I wanted in the short term. Long term, I do want to use Whippet in here, but I want to get just a basic garbage collector in. It's not in there yet. It's not collecting garbage, so it will probably just, use all the RAM on your computer if you do a lot of stuff with it. Your mileage may vary, but GC will be in there next week. But Whippet support will be in later because I think it's pretty interesting. However, I have been thinking a little bit about what the right garbage collection strategy is for a language that is primarily intended for writing games and long-running server applications. Like if you want to run this as a web server. Who has the copyright of Sigil? Me. Because that's what they say in the terms of service of the AI provider, Anthropic. So technically me. I don't know what it really means in the end to have copyright when you do things like this anymore, but that's the assumption. So yes, Whippet will be something that I use later, but I need to understand better what GC looks like and what the characteristics should be for this. Let's see. Bytecode interpreter with CPS-based compilation. Well, that's not really happening yet. It's not using what license? MIT. Yeah, CPS is coming, but it hasn't really been a priority yet. The normal compiler works just fine for now. Hygienic macros and syntax rules. I don't know how hygienic they are. They were not so hygienic before. I was having a lot of issues this week. There's a number of things I have problems with this week that were pretty interesting. Macros that should have been hygienic but weren't. Things being exported across module boundaries and not being resolved correctly, like bytecode being written out in the wrong format and causing crashes or causing weird behavior, all kinds of weird things. So there's been a lot of time spent on getting getting Claude to fix all the mistakes that it made, but it did a pretty good job, I think, in the end. It's a lot more stable now than it was a few days ago. Call CC and delimited continuations, exception handling, channels, module system, R7RS small compatible. The whole goal here is to make it basically be an R7RS scheme implementation, but you don't have to use it R7RS style by default. You just import the right modules, and then you get all the R7RS shapes. But I'm trying to make it a little bit more friendly to people who are familiar with other ecosystems. And let me say, here's my other kind of goal with this. Scheme kind of has a bad reputation for no good reason. People think it's just academic or you can't really do anything practical with it. I'm going to advertise this not as a scheme. This is going to be called Sigil. It won't shy away from the fact that it's scheme, but I want people to find this and see, oh, okay, this is a cool little Lisp. And then one day realize, oh, this is just scheme. And then think, oh wow, scheme's actually kind of good. What are we talking about? So, all the typical modules you would expect: I/O, path, file system, process, time, string, socket, JSON library, SXML support, argument parsing, test framework, exception handling, channels, coroutines. All the good stuff that you would expect to see in a modern language. And that's in 1 week. So it did all that pretty fast. Oh, it's got an HTTP library too that it hasn't actually mentioned. Dave says, not marketing as scheme is good, in my opinion. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. Would people try to use something if they didn't hear that it was scheme? If you just hear, okay, you can write games with this, or web apps with it, and it's small, maybe they would be more interested in trying it, especially if it has a cool looking website and a cool AI generated logo like Trev is suggesting. Anyway, I don't really say, do I say scheme on here? Scheme. Okay, I just say scheme once. R7RS small compatible. It's not scheme, it's just compatible, right? Okay. Anyway, let me just stop yapping and clone the damn thing. Ooh, really? Parent script to JavaScript compiler. How old is this? 9 years ago. I'm not worried about that. Not too worried about it. All right. So. Ah. Ah, crap. All right. Stupid pin entry thing. Prompt me. Thank you. Great. Here we are. Okay, so let me just bootstrap this thing because I haven't built it here yet. Whoops, not that. Scripts, bootstrap. This is going to build the whole thing. So we're starting from a C compiler, a scheme compiler written in C that does the bare minimum basically to get the scheme compilation modules compiled into the bytecode format that the real program uses. So it's compiling the C compiler, C-based compiler, and then it runs through compiling all of the actual Sigil files into bytecode files. And it goes through 3 stages of that. The first one, stage 1, is the C-authored compiler compiling to bytecode that then gets loaded up, and then that becomes the scheme compiler. So it's the scheme runtime code. That gets used to compile stage 2, and then stage 2 gets used to compile stage 3 and the standard library, okay? So that's basically how it all works. Let's see, is that right? Yes, that's right. Stage 2 is just compiling the compiler again using scheme, and then stage 3 is compiling everything, okay? So build bin sigil. And I mean, it's kind of nice looking. Like it has a decent looking experience so far because AI did that, because I told it to, right? To make it look nice. I don't want to hear bare necessities, Peter. So, Sigil REPL. Get a little REPL experience going on here, plus 1, 2, 3. I mean, whatever. It's the thing that you would expect to see. You can go into modules, Sigil IO, and do stuff in there. It doesn't have tab completion or anything like that yet. That's another whole set of things, but whatever. Define foo x, sure, foo x. Yeah, oh, look at that. So that's an interesting little bug that I haven't seen before. One thing that I'm trying to do now is get rid of global scope. I don't think you need global scope in Scheme, because if you're dealing with proper lexical scoping, each module has its own lexical scope. And if each module has its own lexical scope, then you have tighter control over which symbols show up in the code of a module. And you might say, oh, what about a script file that doesn't have a module definition? Well, you treat that as its own module, basically. And I think that we've got some resolution issues because I'm kind of in transition between those two things right now. But that's a minor issue for now, I think. The actual code for various things does run. Niklaus says, when people think they already know something, it makes a lot of sense to bypass this bias by describing it according to its design values and systems. Yes, I think it's better if you just say, here's what it does. If you want to use it, use it. And then later they can figure out what it actually is. So there's a few things that you saw in there. Did that? Okay, it does have to say format. So in the Sigil command, there's like pretty obvious things. I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from NPM because I use JavaScript ecosystem all the time, so I'm kind of familiar with the tooling there. So NPM, not in this case, Sigil run and a task, because there's a task system. There's like a build system, project system. And then build runs a build task, test runs a test task, REPL runs a REPL like you just saw. There's an eval command for evaling expressions. So we can say eval plus 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure I need to put that in parentheses. Sorry, in quotation marks. There you go. It evals that. You can also eval a file. There's an init for creating a new package. I don't know if that's going to work very well. Let me try this. Make dir temp. This may also not work because of the load path issue as well. I'll try it. So build, bin, sigil, init. Yeah, it basically created a new project, but actually this needs to be updated because it's throwing some mesh stuff in here still. And also initialize a Git repo. I saw this happen yesterday. I did it by accident, and it screwed up my repository. There you go. Okay. So anyway, there is a template-based project creation command that's built in there. Okay, it's got some built-in templates already. In fact, you can see that if you want to. Let me go back into the temp. All right. So if I do the same thing again, I think if I say template game, is there a help? No. Template game. There isn't an actual game that it makes. I haven't run it yet, but it made all this stuff. I don't know. It's all starter things, right? You just have to flesh out the ecosystem step by step. But there's a template-based project creation. There's also a formatter, code formatter, because one thing that I noticed is that AI makes a lot of mistakes sometimes with parentheses whenever it's making edits to files, and it would use like sed and awk to figure out where the mismatched parentheses were. I'm like, that's so stupid. So I just made it write a code formatter that can tell whenever the parentheses are unbalanced, and then it can go and fix them the correct way, or maybe even have it fixed on its own. So there's a format file. So if I were to do, I don't know if it's going to break it. Let's see. So if I were to run sigil format package.sigil. Okay, so that file is okay. It doesn't have any issues. In fact, let's just take a look at that. So this is the package project file format. And this is directly inspired by what I had done before. Actually, this is exactly the same as what I had done before with Mesh. So I had an idea way back then to have a packaging format that is reminiscent of things you see like in Cargo for Rust or package.json for Node.js. I'm not trying to make a separate package ecosystem. I'm just trying to make it easy to set the metadata and the specific build tasks for building projects for this language. So, I mean, there's obvious stuff here. You got package name sigil version 1.0. One thing that's different about this than what I did in Mesh is that I'm actually using geek style records. So the default record type in Sigil so far is a geeks style record. If you don't know what that means, it's basically a record that's like this, where the constructor of the record is a syntax that takes the key value pairs as sublists, basically. And it's got the ability to set default values for those, documentation strings, various things like that. Also, it has the interesting quality, which Geeks doesn't have, of having variadic fields. Like in this case, configs is a field that accepts a list of config objects, but this is not, I'm not wrapping this in list here. I'm actually just putting it in directly. Each config is put in directly. And that's because the syntax is turning that into a list and putting it into the configs field of the record type. So what this file basically is just one big record constructor with a bunch of other record constructors being created and putting instances into the fields of everything. So you can have the different configurations for the build, like your development build, release build, static build, web build, etc. You can say what the default configuration is. You can say what libraries can get generated as part of this project. So there's the libsigil library. There's also the executables, like the main application. This is all not really working at the moment, but this is sort of sketching out like what I have in mind for how it should look. There's also the list of tasks for the different things that you would need to do, like compiling the standard library. And each task has a set of steps that can basically just sigil code for running things like, compiling files or whatever. And you can imagine having higher level things built on top of this where it just becomes like a declarative language for doing all this stuff rather than having you write all the code out manually. So like actually telling it to compile all these files, you wouldn't have to do that in practice. You just sort of give it a glob pattern and then it would go do it for you. So yeah, you got all the tasks, and these tasks are visible to the command line. So if you were to say sigil run, what was it that we just saw? Build lib. I don't know if this is going to work. It probably won't, because I've been having some issues with the build stuff. Yeah, so unbound variable resolve flags, that's probably something that's in the code that hasn't been kind of fleshed out yet. But the idea is that you should be able to run any of those tasks by name using sigil run, and then it just executes the code that is assigned for that task. And each task can have separate steps, and there's actually some context being threaded between these steps. So each of these is another interesting thing that I put in here. Compile sigil module, it looks like it's a record that you're creating here, but it's actually not. This is the it's a higher order function that looks like a record type, and it returns a lambda. And in this case, it returns a lambda that takes a context parameter, and I think you can see the context here. So basically a context parameter that gets threaded through, and that context parameter is a record instance that has like all the stuff related to the build. See ya, Ashraz. So it's all functional programming style, but it looks like a document, which is kind of cool. If you want to see, let's see, test, mesh, there's a folder called mesh here. That should be there. Actions, where's the action tests? Compiler, actions, all right. Scheme mode, come on. So this is what an action looks like. I call it an action because I couldn't think of a better name for it, but basically it's like you're defining a geek style record, but the last thing in the action specification is the lambda that gets generated. And all the names of the fields are bound in the scope of that lambda. So it's basically like a lambda that wraps this lambda. This is basically a way to construct a higher order function that takes in parameters and then gets passed in. It's a weird way to do it. I mean, the other way to do it obviously is to have a normal function that has keyword parameters, which isn't supported yet, and then return a lambda. But this seemed like just kind of had some synchronicity with define record. You have define record, which is just for data. You have define action, which is for defining a higher order function that looks like a record. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if it'll stay, but for now it seems pretty cool for being able to come up with like declarative DSL style things that you don't need to make your own DSL for. Hey, Alejandro. So anywho, that's the sort of the project or package format with build tasks and the features that are coming around that. There's a couple example projects that are kind of interesting. One is a chat server that's written with the socket library. It's all scheme code, obviously. You can see it. Let's see, all client sockets. Client name. Is it using coroutines? I don't think so. I think it's just using normal sockets and select. So, parsing arg, starting chat server. Let's see if I can actually run this because I don't remember if it worked, or I don't know if it still works. So build bin sigil run, no, not run, eval f examples chat server. Okay, server ready, waiting for connections. Let's go and open up another one here. So geeks, what was it called? Shell inet utils telnet localhost 8888. New connection. Enter your name, David. Foo. Okay, so it says foo. I'll do the same thing again. Geeks, shell, inet, utils. I'm trying to make a new person here. Telnet, localhost 8888. Left pad. You suck. Okay, you see left pad here. Left pad has joined the chat. You suck. So this is all like, it works. Working socket library, working everything to get to this point. It didn't crash, obviously, so at least it's stable enough to do a demo that I haven't tried for a few days. So yeah, I mean, it's capable of writing applications that do something non-trivial. You could have a socket server, and obviously, if you have a socket, the ability to have a socket server, a TCP server, then that means you can write an HTTP server. And Leo asked in the chat, does it support HTTP 2? Not yet, only 1.1 right now. But 2 is definitely something I would like to do because it's a better protocol altogether. Nice, suck it library. Yes, suck it. So we can check that out. I don't know how well this is gonna work, but I like the design of the HTTP library. I'll have to say it's not bad. I mean, it was kind of a collaboration between me and Claude to figure out what the API for that would be. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? If I go into the packages HTTP Sigil HTTP folder, then we got the Sigil package. I'll have to all right, yes, that's why you said that. You suck is the new hello world. That should be right. Actually, maybe that should. Nah, I should do that in my own language. All right, so let's see if we can build this. Build bin. I really need to have Sigil on the path. Actually, it's 2 levels down, isn't it? All right. Yes. All right. So Sigil build. Did it build? It didn't build any modules. Why not? I wonder if it's updated. Why does it still say MSC? I swear to God, I changed all this. HTTP 2 was a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. There's a lot of stuff in there. That's why HTTP 1.1 was a lot easier to do for now. Okay, that's a init. What about build? MSC to MSB. I swear, it should have picked up all these things. MSC to MSB. Where is that being used? Okay, so I'm going to go do the little fixes here myself. Where is the %? Sigil to, sorry, no. MSB to SGB. Okay, so there's that. Now if I go run it again, maybe it will work. I might have to recompile everything. There's an HTTP 3. Why? Is that like Web 3? Where it's all crypto? All right, I have to rebuild. Let's see. ... There we go. Come on. Come on. Let's go. There it is. Okay, now you can see that the Sigil build actually did build the Sigil files to bytecode here. You're probably wondering, why even do that? Why can't you just have it load the Sigil source files and load those in as modules? I just don't have it set up because I've been working more on just compilation. Quick? Yes, that's probably true. Google's thing, right? So anyway, it built those modules. Also have a test thing as well. Like, let's see, Sigil test. No test files found. Look for test Sigil in test or test. It's in here, isn't it? What is this? No, not that. What is this? Okay, that's the spec files. Okay. Peter says, on the other hand, HTTP specs are well documented with sample code available, so I assume a bunch of agents can chew on it and come to results. Oh yeah, well, at least with HTTP 1.1, I mean, that's nothing. It was like literally it crapped out an HTTP 1.1 client and server in about 10 minutes or less. It was really, really straightforward. The bigger issue was just fixing all the problems that I had with the runtime and the compiler to get everything working. But aside from that, it hasn't been that bad. So hold on. Where does it? Okay, glob test files. Glob test files. And did I just pass it? Okay, here it is. Normalized dirs, package test dirs. It's looking for Sigil files. Filter for test file patterns. Anyway, it's supposed to run the test. It was doing it yesterday, but after I did the rename, it's apparently not working. Unless there's like a directory issue or something. Anyway, let's Sigil test. I think I could say test request running test unbound variable HTTP request global lookup. Yeah, there's another little weird issue. Record types are doing weird things. I think there's something going wrong with constant compilation in there. Yes, there is a REPL for sure. Okay, so we're not going to see the test execution. That's fine. Actually, I probably could run them directly. Oh, no, it won't work because of the same issue. It's something with loading the module. So eval f. Yeah, okay, fine. Oh, library cannot be loaded. Sigil HTTP request. Oh, right. I forgot. There's a reason why. And that is because I need to add it to the load path. This is lib. Yeah. Right. Okay. Anyway, that's an issue to look into. I think the HTTP server will work. I hope it will work. Maybe it won't. Let's see. There's an example file for simple server. Damn, it doesn't work. Well, we may have to get Claude to look into that in a minute because it's a nice demo. So another thing I'll tell you is that if you are interested in sort of the design of everything that I've been working on so far, and also the process that I've been using to kind of coach Claude through this whole thing, I've been writing out in Markdown files, a lot of Markdown files. There's a folder called Notes in the repo, and then Design is a subfolder. There's a bunch of Markdown files in here where basically what I do is I have a specific thing I want it to work on, and I tell it to write up a Markdown file with a proposed design and also a set of tasks that it should complete. Alejandro says, is Sigil the new mesh? Yes, it is. I decided to go with a new name and a new life for it, to keep the old project sort of as a memory, let's say, a good memory. So for HTTP library, you can open that file up and see that it has like a whole spec written here. And a lot of the stuff that it put together in the spec, well, not a lot of it. A lot of the base stuff for the client and server are all implemented. And what I told it is that I want an HTTP 1.1 server implementation that is easy to write code for, but also supports server sent events, because it's something that Guile's web server implementation does not do. And it's one of the things I need for Datastar. Like if you want to do kind of live updates to a page with Datastar, you need to have server sent events so that it can keep the connection alive and then be sending events back on the open connection. That way you can do a lot of really cool real-time stuff, like having a game that's running on a website just in a web browser. You can just have that be a thing that is streaming information back to power the game. Obviously, you'd be sending requests to the game, which you could probably do in a similar long polling fashion to be able to write it, write events to it with a client connection. I don't know. That's something I'll have to check into. But point being, just with a simple web server without WebSockets, you could potentially do this kind of real-time, at least data coming back from the server. WebSockets also will be something that I'll implement, or Claude will implement. I'll just tell it to implement it. But that's not really needed just yet. But I did want to have a simple web server that made it easy to have that kind of implement, or kind of real-time, I'll get the words out, real-time event streaming capabilities built in. Let me actually show you, not that, the simple server.sgl file. So, pretty straightforward stuff. You define a handler function that takes the request as a parameter. So that's the request object. It's a record type. It just has all the stuff in it that you need. Dave says, I don't think it would be too much work to add SSC to Guile. The problem is that the current design of both the Guile web server handler implementation and the one in Fibers, neither of them set things up in a way where you can write stuff to a port in an ongoing fashion. Now, obviously, that could be changed. It'd be pretty nice if it could be changed because it's useful to be able to do that. But it's not there currently. It assumes that you're going to return a response back immediately from the handler procedure whenever you're handling the request. So in this case, it's just a plain handler function. You generate some HTML. There's an SXML library, but we're not really using that for this. You can also return JSON because there's a JSON. Well, this is just a string, but ultimately JSON is supported. Let's see. Just a regular old handler, nothing too fancy. There's procedures for returning certain types of responses, like not found, or even like the ones like HTTP response JSON or HTTP response text. I kind of feel like that's a nice pattern just to give you procedures for the common types of responses that you would have to just kind of fill in the stuff that you need there. The way that Guile does responses is that it wants you to return like values, and I can never remember what's supposed to go in there, okay? I can never remember. So I think these are a little bit more user-friendly in a sense for being able to have a function to do a response. Now, obviously, you have to remember what things come in this procedure, but if you just look at the documentation for the procedure, you would find it. Let's see. Header's a string. That probably should be part of the standard library. Then there's just HTTP serve, which is a blocking function, obviously. You say what port you want it on and the handler procedure to use, and that's it. You just serve that procedure, and then whatever that procedure does is what happens on the server for request response. And obviously, from there, you can do pretty much anything. So that's cool. Oh, yeah, it's already there, Alejandro. It's in the standard library. If you look at standard lib, Sigil SXML, because SXML... so this is something that Dave taught me. SXML is actually not that hard to implement. It's pretty straightforward, actually. There's only about 183 lines of code in here. Because really, it's just a recursive match expression. Is it using match here? It's not even using match. It's just using cond. It's not that complicated, apparently, to translate S expressions to XML whenever you have the format. So... yes, it's already in there, which is nice to have because this plus the HTTP library means that you can easily, host a website with Sigil. Today, I love SXML, man. It's amazing. It's great, especially if you're doing dynamic websites with something like Datastar, where all the stuff that happens in the client gets sent as a request to the backend, which is like 1990s style internet, but. You just return fragments of HTML or fragments of JSON back to get things to update in the page. You can do all that in your Steam code. So this is kind of the perfect language for doing that kind of application. And it's easy to deploy too, because if you can just, drop a single binary on the server, maybe with some asset files, but they can be bundled in too. Then you have a nice little self-hostable dynamic website in Scheme. HTML to SXML is not that simple, though. Yes, parsing it well is not easy because it could be malformed. When are we getting benchmarks against the other schemes? I don't really care too much about that. Performance is something that has to be decent, but the point of having my own thing like this is to make it really good for the scenarios I care about. Performance, obviously, is going to be important for games, but performance is not the number one goal. Like the quality of the tool and its ability to ship applications with it, practical applications, is more interesting to me. Guile is great as a scheme. It's very advanced in terms of its implementation, has a lot of stuff built in, but the one thing that you cannot do with it very easily is ship applications because you got to have all the kind of the whole machinery of Guile. You have to have the standard library of Guile installed. You have to have the runtime installed, that kind of thing. I guess it's possible. You can make a C application that pulls in libguile. I don't think you can statically link it, though. Maybe you can, but if you do, then your application becomes GPL immediately. I don't know if you care about that. maybe I don't care that much about it. Sorry, I'm not going to GPL Sigil because I want people to use it to make things and ship them, okay? And if you have to worry about the license, then you're going to do that. So anyway, point is that it should be easy to make an application that you can give to somebody, okay? A language is not that useful unless you can do that, in my opinion. If you can't make an application and give it to somebody that they can run it on their computer, then what's the point of having that language? I mean, maybe you can find other ways to deploy it. This is like a good language for deploying to servers or something, but I don't know. It's not a knock on Guile or anything or any other language really. It's just like my goal is to make something to give to someone and have them run it, especially if you can kind of pack everything together in an interesting way. Peter says, I called out to libtidy to get proper SXML. Yeah, calling out to other libraries is definitely going to be something that will be important for specific use cases. Make it work, make it correct, make it fast. Exactly. First is getting it to work. Next is making it work where it doesn't crash. And then you can try to worry about making it fast. One time says you can sprinkle some unpoly into it, which is a bit like HTMX, and you can have a better than 90s website. I don't know if I've heard of OnePoly. One time said, keep mesh as a memento, which is the best movie about context engineering. Well, sort of, yes. I guess it does have some relation there. What else is in here? Oh, I got a little ANSI library for doing ANSI color codes. That's right, Trev. It was just get Claude to do everything. So yes, ANSI color code stuff, and we were using that in the terminal for the fancy output for certain things. It's kind of nice to have that. Obviously necessary. Glenn says, I'm rewriting stash and comment list for that very reason. Oh boy. Yes, well, you know, having it be an application you can ship to somebody is pretty important, I think. Like, you kind of need to be able to do that. Otherwise, you know, you got a program that's just fun for you to run, but if nobody else can run it. That's one thing that's kind of nice about Geeks, is that it's easy to distribute apps to people on Geeks if you write a Geeks package definition for it and they can build it on their machine. So most people don't have Geeks though, so you have to package things for them. Nicolas says, I wonder why we don't see a modern convention expectation-based language built on top of Guile's Tower, something like Wisp, but in a way that is competitive with Janet or Chibi or now Sigil. What do you mean? The actual syntax of the language? I had considered putting Wisp in here, something like Wisp in Sigil, because it's nice to have it as an alternative syntax, which is basically still the same expressiveness as S expressions. Yeah, competitive with Janet or Chibi. Well, maybe it's the combination of something that could make standalone applications and also not have S expressions as a syntax. But I kind of like them. I don't know, man. I go mess around with other languages, and I just feel like, to me, when I see this, it doesn't look bad to me. In fact, it looks really good to me. I feel so much happier when I look at code that looks like that compared to other things. Benoit says, me at family dinner. Yeah, today Claude told me I'm an outstanding developer. No, it didn't. It hasn't told me that. In fact, yes, very subjective. Something that's more intuitive and doesn't rely on cultural or historical knowledge of Scheme. Well, I do think that not telling someone that it's Scheme could help, because they would just, not come in there with any assumptions about what it's supposed to be. Benoit says, Claude told me that yesterday. It did? Wow, maybe I'm not doing things right then. It told me that I had some clever ideas, but it didn't tell me that I'm an outstanding developer. I think that's the problem, though. If you start getting complimented too much by the AI, you know that it's coming for your job. It's just trying to butter you up long enough for you to get lazy, and then it's going to take over. What else is in here? Let's see. The JSON library. How big is that? Okay, 325 lines. Not too bad. Oh, man. Trev's asking Niklaus, you don't want to read R5RS and R7RS long versions? I tell you what, I've said this before. To me, reading the R7RS small spec, it's kind of like relaxing in a way. Something's wrong with me. For me to be so obsessed with Scheme, even though it's not practical from the sort of mainstream perspective, something must be wrong with me. Trev says David Will has both of them in the bathroom magazine rack. No, but I look at them on my phone sometimes. Anywho, JSON library, that's a good thing to have. That's sort of the goal is the standard library should have stuff that is very commonly useful. Match expression, there's a kind of a match expression implementation in here. It is not the standard one, and it's not fleshed out yet, but it does stuff. Eric says, we're the odd ones. I like to reread the little schemer yearly. I need to look at that again. Let's see. REPL, socket, string, time, coroutines. Coroutines, I think, has some part of the implementation that is in the runtime and not just in Scheme. So you have the ability to do like a Go style coroutine somewhere in here. Spawn. It's a little bit reminiscent of fibers, I think. Okay, make coroutine with a thunk, sure. Maybe it's in channels where the Go thing is. Here it is, Go thunk. Let me pull scheme mode up on this. I still haven't made an Emacs package for this yet. Spawn a new task in the current scheduler. Must be called within channel run or schedule run context. So we got a thunk, and then we spawn the thunk in the scheduler. I mean, that's really just a simple wrapper. There's nothing to it. And channel select. Yes, you need that for concurrency. There is, I had to write docs. The docs, I haven't looked at them at all. But it could be that they work. Let's see, guides, concurrency. What does a concurrency guide say? Cooperative concurrency through channels and lightweight tasks. Channels are the primary communication mechanism between concurrent tasks. You can make a channel. Let's see. Channel send, channel receive, channel close, spawning tasks. I would like to see if this example works. Want to see? All right, let's go to examples. Channels.sgl. I just want to run this and see what happens. So build bin sigil eval f examples channels. Oh, abort the prompt. No matching prompt found. Okay, so we got some issues with prompts. I haven't really messed with that recently. It is in here. Obviously, the code is written. Continuations and stuff are written. All this stuff is built on top of continuations, delimited continuations. But obviously, it's not working at the moment. I wonder if the adventure example is working right now. Let's see. Where is it? Main? Damn. Oh, maybe I need to add it to the load path. In fact, it's not compiled. Let's see if that works. So examples, adventure. Library cannot be loaded. I wonder if it's expecting too much to find. Oh, wait, what? Ah, okay. Maybe if I build it all. Okay, how about that? I think the best way to do that. There isn't an easy way to just tell it to compile something. Not at the moment, anyway. What time is it? Okay. Kind of thinking, oh, yeah. I want to go back to something Trev said before, too, also. But not yet. I'm thinking I might want to try to pull Claude out to work on something here on this. but I'm not sure which part I would want it to do. What is the thing that I want it to org babble or didn't happen? Well, definitely that's something that's not too hard to hook up because you just wire it up into Emacs as another provider for org babble. Dave says some better onboarding docs plus retiring car cooter and set docs would go a long way. It's a good point. I wonder like how much it would be useful to have some more user-friendly or more modern quote-unquote data structures, which Scheme already has either in Inbox or in Surfy's, like hash tables, things like that, that people are kind of familiar with, because I think a lot of people think in terms of dictionaries or hash tables when it comes to expressing data. Record types probably feel a little bit too rigid for that, and because they're not really flexible, you just define something as an object that has specific fields, which is useful for certain things, but not so much for kind of bags of data. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, I saw this before in Gambit Scheme. And it turns out the reason why is because Mark Feely, the guy who wrote Gambit Scheme, is the one who wrote the Surfy. It is keyword objects, right? Basically for things like functions with keyword parameters. I don't know what you think about this syntax. I don't know if you can even read that, especially while being blinded. But having keywords where the colon comes at the end of the symbol, I actually kind of like the way that looks. I think it looks a bit better than having colons that come at the beginning, and especially the guile form of having hash colon and then the text. I think this feels a bit more natural. It looks nicer. I'm thinking about implementing that. In fact, that's something that we could probably try to do right now even, to add keyword style parameters to functions. And then, in theory, you could do something like they do in Clojure, where you could make a keyword callable to where if you try to call a keyword object, if you give it a parameter which is a hash table of some sort, then it would index that key out of the hash table. So that would get you closer to the experience you get in a language like Clojure, where hash tables are kind of like a first-class citizen. Now, they wouldn't be immutable hash tables unless we made them that way, and which is possible. You could have persistent data structures. And in fact, I think it would be pretty easy for Claude to write a set of persistent data structures that operate in that way. I don't know if we really want that or not. Mutability can be useful for things like games, but I guess there's other things for that. Like if you have record types, that's a lot faster to use because there's basically just a vector with indexed accessors built on top of it. But for general, manipulation of data and whatnot, I think that people would be happier to see not car and cooter based const lists, but something like a hash table that you could use, or a list vector. Lists are not bad in schemes, obviously, but they would have to feel pretty comfortable, which they do if you're used to Scheme. I think that I need to have the Surfy1 functions in here. I think there may be some others too that are kind of like table stakes. You need to have all that stuff, but Surfy1, obviously there's a lot of stuff in here that you want to have. Threading macros, of course. Partial application of functions would be pretty good to have. There's like cut and cute. There's a Surfy for that. Is it 26? Yeah, so this 26 has cut and cute, which I think is an awful name, but the implementation is good because you could basically just have these little brackets to say where you want the parameter to go, multiple parameters even. So it's pretty flexible. I might have that in there and rebind it to a different name. One time says, yes, +1 for keywords as functions and immutable data structures. And Dave says, I think immutable hash maps should be core. Personally, I'm fine with mutable hash tables having more of a procedural API as opposed to nice syntax. Immutable hash maps are what you want most of the time when you're being declarative. Yes. So I think that a lot of that stuff could be core, just be built in by default, and have the idiomatic style of the language use those. One thing that's a problem with Scheme is that it's hard to know what the idiomatic style of Scheme is because it really depends on what Surfys are available and kind of sometimes the underlying implementation details and even the perspective of the author. Like the author of an implementation can be very focused on the low-level, Lambda calculus aspects of scheme, which are cool. I love that part. But if you want to write normal practical applications, you kind of need to have higher level stuff. Dave says, but also the A list is an underrated data structure, often better than a hash map for simple things. Yes, I wrote a whole game engine that used A lists as a way to store data and pass it between things. And I quickly learned that you can't really do that in the hot path of a game engine. But it's fun, though. You can do a lot of pretty cool stuff with using A lists for all the data that goes between everything in your engine. But yeah, it's not good for performance. But for basic things, absolutely. Like, headers in an HTTP library. You don't need to have a special data structure for representing headers. You can just have an A list for the key value pairs for the headers. Anyway, I think Surfy88 is pretty nice. Having callable keywords with an immutable hash map type would feel pretty comfortable. You would need to have the other functions that make it easy for you to produce a new version of the same hash map with the key change, or even like the, what do they call it? Like the assoc in? No. What's the closure functions for like making an edit deeper into a hash table with like multiple keys? There's functions for that too. You would need stuff like that as well. Dave says it performs better than a hash table. Conj? Yeah, Conj is one of them, I think. Dig? I don't know. There's another one. A sock in. I thought it was. Yeah, a sock in. Anyway, stuff like that would be cool. Let's see. I like this idea, though. Let's see. I'm curious, all right? It would need to be... Oh, update in. Thank you, Tom. So, Surfy88 would need to be built in. Some Surfies you don't need Surfy modules for. I've got a Surfy module for Surfy 9. So standard lib, Surfy 9, because that's the record type one. And I don't think I want that to be core. I want that to be available, but I don't want it to be core to the language. My own define record is core to the language, which is the geek style record. And that's pretty nice for more declarative style record instances, let's say. So I think that's pretty good for readability, expressiveness. One thing that Trev said before, he said he had a coworker who said that it's good to have like markdown files as reference for AI in your repo, and that's really the way to do this, because little tip about AI. As you continue through a session telling it to do things, eventually it's going to have to compact the context you've built up so far. And as soon as it does that, it forgets stuff and it starts getting stupider. So the better thing to do is to, before it compacts anything, you have it write out a document about everything it's been doing so far, and tell it all the stuff you want it to put in there. Like the conclusions it's made, the design it's following, the commands it's using for testing, specific files that it's been looking at, etc. It does that itself when it's doing a compaction in a session, but you need it to have it in a way where you can commit it into your repository, and then start a new session, have it read that file again, and have it start doing the work again, because you get better results that way. I found that a lot of times if Claude is kind of like spinning on a problem, like it can't figure it out, it keeps trying different things and it doesn't really do a good job, what I need to do is tell it to write out everything it knows into a file, clear the session, then tell it to go read that file and then continue. And then usually it will come up with different ideas that are better, and it breaks through the gap. So it is a pretty good strategy, I found, especially for something like this, which is really complicated. Dave says a hash table at minimum has a hash the key and do an equality check. Yeah, definitely it will end up being more costly than just doing a simple key lookup, I think. Benoit says you can also use memory and skills to keep that context. Yeah, I put some things into Claude.md, and I haven't started using skills yet, but that does seem pretty interesting for common tasks. Subagents can also be useful for that too, but I haven't really used that very much. Okay, so I want to see if I can get it to do that. Let's get it to implement Surfy 88. There's also Surfy 89, optional positional and name parameters. I want to see what that looks like too, because I haven't looked at this one very closely. Where is it? Whoa, what did I press? Yeah. No, no, no. I'm in the document. No, there it is. Define star and lambda star special forms. I kind of don't want that. I don't want there to be a special version. I kind of want it to just be part of the default. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but it's like cognitive overhead to tell somebody that they have to use lambda star or define star to get keyword parameters. Now, what that might mean is the default implementation of a lambda might be slower if it has to consider the presence of optional keywords. But maybe the syntax can be smart and generate a normal lambda whenever there's not any keyword parameters. Now, a lambda with keyword parameters, I might do it as a lambda star. But a define itself, the form that you normally use for defining a function, I probably would let that have keyword parameters and just have it be smart. Yes, Benoit. Subagents are nice to manage your context as it works on a separate context. Yes, definitely. That is a big improvement, I think. Peter says, I'd like to try that out with something like the hexagon Archie pattern to have each agent responsible for a module and use that to restrict the boundaries. Yeah, that is kind of interesting. There's different models you can use for implementing this stuff. Oh, wow. So you basically turn this into a case lambda. That's interesting. Speaking of case, where's case? Huh. What? Ah, okay. That's really interesting. Okay, so it doesn't do that. Okay, so they basically have an example implementation of this already. Define star pattern body. If pattern is a pair, then you pass it through to lambda star. Otherwise, you pass it through to the normal define. Ed says closures fn is a macro that expands to fn star for compiler implementation reasons. They're not really separate things. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. Parse positional section, named section, parse named section, parse rest, expand lambda. Oh, that's a whole thing here. Perfect hash tables with keyword keys. Okay, so this is like an actual hash table implementation here. It's using vector. Okay, that makes sense. So that's like a whole end-to-end implementation, sounds like. Having that as part of the prelude of the language seems kind of heavy, but I think you kind of want to have keyword parameters for functions as like a core language feature. Yes, that's right. Let's see. So we could try that. Let's pull up a little Claude here. CD projects code Sigil. Claude awake. Geek shell node Claude. There we go. In Sigil, yes, continue. Feel free to do it. Okay, so I'd like to implement Surfy 8889 style keyword objects and define lambda with keyword parameters. Can you write up a spec for this so that we can work out the details, make sure to include a checklist for the implementation plan. Do it. So we'll see if it gets it close. I'll talk to it a little bit and see if I can get a better result out of it. It's going to go read a bunch of markdown files apparently. I almost changed the kind of the record style syntax of the package file to use this instead, because this is a bit, what's the right way to put it? It's a bit cleaner to look at. Like if you were to look at a configuration file that is written in a style like the one you see right here, without all the parentheses, it does look less noisy, but I think it actually breaks the Lisp experience, the Lisp editing experience in tools like Emacs, where you can navigate around S expressions. One time says, why not just copy paste a reference implementation from the Surfy? Because I might want to do it a little bit differently. So I feel like there's advantages to this approach for just plain function calling, but I think that for DSL type documents, probably the record type approach is a bit better, even though it's a little bit noisier. I might change my mind on that though. We'll see. All right, I'm looking at what it's thinking about. Let's create a comprehensive design doc for keywords and keyword parameters. This has basically been the process. I just tell it to come up with a doc, then I look at it, then I critique it, and then I say, go do it. And we've got about 20 minutes left. We'll see if it actually is successful in that amount of time. Ed says, Clojure implements keyword args via destructure implementation. It has nothing to do with the distinction between function and funstar. Okay. Destructuring is kind of interesting. Now that you mention it, there's like match lambda. I wonder if something more match-like would actually be better to have destructuring for parameters in procedures by default. I wonder if you could do the same thing. And it would be more versatile than just having keyword params. Let me let it write this out first, and we'll go take a look at it. All right, keyword objects and keyword parameters. Let's see. Without keywords, make window. With keywords, make window. Yeah. Let's see. Particularly valuable for FFI bindings where C functions have many optional parameters, builder patterns, and fluid interfaces. Sure. Yes. All right. Keyword with special characters, foobar, boz. Colon is part of the keyword's name. Keywords are distinct from symbols. Yes, that's right. Self-evaluating. Foo evaluates to itself. No quoting needed. Yes. Keywords with the same name are equal. Yes. Immutable cannot be modified, distinct from symbols. Yes. Procedures. Keyword string. String and keyword. Keyword name. Okay. Examples. Okay. Reader syntax. Fine. Trailing colon syntax rather than leading. It's a standard. Leading colon is already a valid symbol. Syntax. Trailing colon visually suggests labeled or named. Yes. Keyword parameters are declared using hash, key, and parameter list. No. Why? No. They don't do it that way in Surfy 89 either, do they? Define star. No, it's not done that way either. You just have it be in parentheses. E. What? Huh? Only if it occurs in the formal parameter list. K is a keyword object. Oh, key is an actual name. I don't like that. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. H2 key K false. Is that like an alternate name? Is that a binding? List AKR. Okay. All right, so you can provide an alternate name for the binding. I don't really like that, though. Lambda. Oh, huh. I see. I don't like that too much. I get it. So the keyword can be B. Oh, that's an optional. Okay, so that's only optional. Why does the binding have to be specified separately? Why can't it just be the same name as the keyword? That seems weird. Okay, well, anyway, the way that they've specified it, whether Claude wrote it down here, is not the right way. Default values, key name. Oh, okay, this is the key section. This is kind of like the way that Guile does it, I think. Key name greeting. I don't like that. Let me edit one of these and see like how I want it to look. It's kind of the problem, though. Whoops. Like this. And then name or greeting is hello. That feels more like it, doesn't it? Or is that just too like in there? X, Y, keys. Does that look right? Is it too vague looking? Should it be in a sub list? I feel like if you put it in a sub list, though, it starts to look a bit annoying. Let's see. JavaScript keyword parameters. What does JavaScript do? Can't even remember. I can't decline? Oh, you son of a... There's args. They don't have that, do they? I guess you could just destructure an object when it comes through. Is that what it does? Maybe that's a thing. If there's a way to initialize a hash table. Like I'm thinking of it like this. I know that Clojure probably does it something like this. I can't remember because it's been a while since I've done Clojure. Let me drop this right here. Just for the sake of argument, let's say there is a curly brace syntax. I don't know that there would ever be such a thing in this language, but let's just say for the sake of argument that there could be. There could be name. I guess, would you even like have a, let's see, Clojure function destructuring. I don't remember what that looks like. Keyword arguments. Oh, it's got the ampersand and then like the whole destructuring hash table. They got keys here too. Okay, so that actually is kind of prior art in a way. Or, what does or mean? Okay. That's not the same as destructuring though. Okay, keys, hobbies, person keys. What? Or sets defaults, thank you. Okay, so it's a little bit spread out, the whole specification here, because you got the or here for the defaults. And then as opts. So is that like a rebinding for the whole hash table itself? Keys is short for keywords. Okay, got it. I swear there was like another syntax that was more like just pulling things out of the hash table itself and not that specifically. Okay, but that makes sense though. This makes sense. Because it could be like that here. Like I just did, like that. Keys. Right? Why not? Okay, so I'll just tell it to do that for now, right? So for the define syntax, I think I'd rather have something like this. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to paste it in there. Yeah, let also does destructuring. I remember that. Okay. Don't have a lot of time left. Let's see what it can do, though. Maybe it can do it. I'll just tell it to do it this way. It's cleaner and more Lisp-like. Thank you. The keys keyword naturally marks a section, and grouping them in a list is visually clear. Yes, let me update the spec to use this syntax throughout. Do it. I don't know that I would do optional parameters that aren't keyword parameters. Like, why would you have optional positional parameters? Because when you do that, you can't tell what it is. Okay, so it's that kind of syntax. Yeah, that's the one I'm remembering. The one where you basically give it the binding name and then the actual keyword name. So you're pulling things out that way. All right, Lambda keys. This is Opus 4.5. It is very good. REST args. Yeah, that's fine. Variadic. Optional keywords. It's even got the EBNF syntax here. That's pretty funny. Opts, optional positional parameters. Yeah, whatever. Fine. Okay. That looks good. Looks fine. How can we implement this in a way where... Whoops. What is SOTA models? State of the art? Okay. How can we implement this in a way? Oh. Just edit it. Stop asking me. Okay, so how can we implement this in a way? The problem with having stuff like this, though, is that I don't know if apply works correctly, but maybe it will work correctly the way that it would be implemented under the covers. Nested lists, so they would be handled by define syntax rules pattern matching naturally. Maybe for define. I don't know about lambda, though. Maybe lambda. where the keys ops checking logic is not included if the function definition or procedure definition does not include them. I know you're busy, but I'm going to tell you something else. That looks way better, I think. Compile time specialization. Functions of that keyword should compile to the same code they do today. Yes, exactly. Because we don't want the things to slow down if you don't use that. Don't pay for what you don't use approach. You're right. Now, can you implement it in 10 minutes, Claude? Let's see. What's all this? Ooh, call the keyword argument processing. There's a special op code it's adding in. That's cool. Uh-huh. Oh, keyword parameter info in the closure object. Yeah, I was doing that too when I implemented in Mesh. Say what? Oh, keyword ref. Ah, okay. Cool. Open questions to reflect our decisions. I mean, that's a pretty thick little spec there, right? When will Sigil mode be available for Emacs? Tomorrow? I don't know. I should have done that probably in the stream instead of doing this thing, but this actually is pretty interesting too. But yes, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously we'll have to have an Emacs package because otherwise the code is unusable. Add notes design. You want to commit it already? Sure, stage it. I think it's fine. I mean, I like the design. Did this get updated? Yeah, it did. Commit. Add design spec for keyword objects, keyword parameters. Get the Claude out of there. I don't want you taking credit for my work. Trev says, does this language have a mailing list I can subscribe to? No, it does not, Mr. Trev. Unless you want to make one and then shit post on it about the fact that I'm using AI to write the language. That's fine. Let's see. Okay, cool. Please make it so. We're living in the future. Gene Roddenberry's dream. Make it so. Significant implementation task with multiple phases. Yeah, it is. That's why you're doing it, not me. I think Claude needs to be a little bit more spicy, though. Oh, by the way, the C compiler does not need to support this. How's that going to work, though? However, how will we... Oh, no, wait. It's a good question about bootstrapping. So things like define are implemented as special forms in the C compiler because you don't have all the scheme machinery yet until you start loading the prelude file that has some of the syntax transformer stuff in it. So then for the C compiler, with the syntax macro for define overshadowed the special form implementation? Maybe not. Yes, bootstrapping fun times. However, okay, yes. We need to implement it in a way where it lights up for the scheme compiler to be used in standard lib, but not in the core compiler code. Let's see how far it can get in the amount of time left. We'll see something happen. Keyword value type, reader support, primitives, scheme compiler, macro expansion support for keys, syntax, and lambda defined. Yes. Basically that. We'll see. We'll see how possible that is. Don't tell anyone that we talk. David the school jock to Claude. Yes. Yes, basically that. But it's obvious in the repo that Claude is involved because there's a Claude.md file. So it's not like I'm hiding it that much. I just don't want it taking credit for the work that it did, okay? It's an AI. I can treat it like a second-class citizen. Why should it get to take credit? You deserve that one, Trev. Pat yourself on the back. Sigil keyword struct. So one thing I want to do, if we were to use AI a little bit more on the stream, I think I would like to have Claude have a bit of an attitude, because I think it'd be fun to argue with AI. Why not just have it be a little bit more entertaining, the whole process of working with the AI. Just have it be kind of a shithead, and you just yell at it and tell it to get back to work. Because then we would be like a real pointy-haired boss. Or what's the name of the boss on Office Space? The one who's coming and asking about TPS reports and working on Saturday. You could basically be that. Now we're all just watching it do the work. Keyword table size must be power of 2. Wow, that's a lot of keywords. Wait, hold on. How many keywords? Is that the maximum number of keywords that are going to be supported by the runtime? Come on now. Yes, apparently so. Okay, it's a hash table. Fine. However, that's a pretty small number. All this kind of stuff where you have to tune the number of the size of things, like the size of the heap, or the size of things like the number of keywords that are supported in the intern list for keywords or symbols or whatever. Like that's all kind of Gary Cole is definitely the name of the actor, but the name of the character, I don't know the name of the character. Yes, it's difficult to know like what the limits are for these things. Update the reader. Need to add a help function to intern keywords and modify read symbol to check for trailing colon. Yes, okay, that shouldn't be too hard. I'm gonna give you 10 more minutes, Claude. Do you mean a feature like pseudo insults? What's pseudo insults? You got all the hash table special numbers here, it seems. Bill Lumberg, thank you. Yes, that's right. Bill Lumberg. All right, update the to-do list and add keyword support to the printer. Sure. So let's see. Since we're almost at the end here, what's on my agenda in the short term? So what I would say is foreign function interface. I've already got a design for that. I just haven't implemented it yet. But it's going to be kind of like Chibi's model, where it's a stub-based approach. You have a stub file that's written in Scheme, and then that generates a C file that gets compiled. Trev says, how much money does this cost? Just a flat monthly fee? Yeah, it's $200 a month for the max plan. But with the new cost or token cost for Opus 4.5, which is a lot less than it used to be, you can do some pretty hardcore coding for an entire week, which is basically what I did. By the time this afternoon before the stream, I was up at about 94% of the weekly usage quota of Opus 4.5. And it made about, a little over 200 commits. So it got a lot done on that amount of quota. So yeah, it's expensive. But at the same time, is pretty useful. I think that like the amount of time that you save for that amount of money is a lot. I haven't used Sonnet at all this week. Okay, let's put it that way. Usually before with Opus, you could use it for like an hour, and then you would hit like the limit on that for a while. The way that all this stuff works keeps changing constantly. Like in August, you would get like a certain amount of opus that you could use automatically in Claude Code, and then it would switch you down to Sonnet, and the quality would get a little bit worse, but it wasn't that bad. But now, like, I just run on Opus 4.5 all the time. Are you interested in running models locally in the future? If they're good, yeah, I would definitely do it. I'd use laptops though. I don't have like a beefy server that has enough RAM and like a GPU to run this stuff on. Okay, so build Sigil check for compile errors. Use script bootstrap.sh. I don't know why it's trying to use make, because the make file's not even in the root of the repo anymore. But yeah, it would be nice to use local models for sure. I think that the quality would not be as good as this though. Like the quality has gotten pretty good now. It has a pretty exceptional ability to think through problems, and also the strategies that it uses to debug problems, the way that it prints things out, narrows down problems, or narrows down on the source of a problem. I don't know. It's gotten way better in my opinion. It can do a lot on its own. Sometimes it does need a little bit of help. I have to stop it sometimes and kind of give it some thoughts that may put it on the right track. But for the most part, it can do a lot and write a lot of pretty solid code, even scheme code. Like it's written a ton of scheme code that looks pretty good. Like it's fairly idiomatic and not too verbose. All right, let's test the keywords work. Let's see. Oh, don't use the dev scripts. In fact, delete them. Use build bin sigil eval. One time says, I was just looking into the GM Tech AMD Ryzen AI Max before the stream. With 128 gigabytes of RAM, it runs some free models locally pretty fast. That would 128 gigabytes of RAM for sure. All right, eval. It did it. It read them. There they are. There's a keyword parameter right there, or a keyword object. Keyword string foo. Keywords are working. Let me test more. Okay, what else do you want to know? Oh, okay, you're checking if it's equal. Okay, so now we have keyword objects in the language. Let's see if it can put it in the compiler and have a function defined with keyword parameters within the next 5 minutes. Let's see. All right, runtime helpers and compiler support. Look at the prelude and scheme compiler structure. So I don't know why I think there's a prelude file there. There's no longer a prelude file. It's sigil/core.sgl. Now the prelude is a module because everything is modules. Let's go, buddy. Get to work. It called me the user. I'm not the user. It calls me the user just like I call it the AI slave. Very nice. Large file. Please let me add a keyword runtime helpers first, then look at compiler for keys support. Sure. Add the helpers at the end of the Sigil core. Whatever. Get it done, buddy. Uh-oh. Context left of auto compact 6%. Jeez. That was fast. What I've noticed lately, I think that the context reporting is wrong. I've seen a little bit of flakiness with that recently. Like it tells me that there's only like a certain amount of percent left, and then all of a sudden it disappears and it keeps going. I think it's wrong. Is that your love language with the machine? Yes, I think so. Wait, what? Error from too many exports. Huh? What are you talking about? Oh, really? It's possible. Wow, we've already hit it. Okay, hit it. We need more exports than that, man. It's bumping the limit of the exports. Max imports 64. That's some arbitrary limits there. Eddie says, can you use org mode files instead of markdown in the repo? Yeah, it can edit org mode files. I think it's more comfortable with markdown. Let's go. Come on. I don't have much time left here. Are you going to build it? Probably going to start pooping out a bunch of code right now. Usually when it sits around like that. Oh, wow. It took you that long to decide to build the code again? Great. Yeah. Now it's going to write the keyword helpers. Split keyword args. Oh, okay. Nice. Makes a little A list. That's cool. Implement the keys syntax. We'll look at the scheme compiler. Compiler boot sigil. Why are we looking at that? Yeah, Markdown is more native for AI, I think. It's read a lot of Markdown files in its life. Okay. Lambda slash keys and define slash keys macros. I wonder what approach it's taking here. It looks like it's making special macros for that, but it needs to not do that define in that way. I'll tell it to fix it if it does something weird. All right, define keys. Ah, look at that. It's got a whole transformer form. Lambda keys, params body, where params make it keys. Where is the syntax? Keyword parameter macros. Lambda keys define keys. Keys add keys. Keys. Okay. That's a whole implementation. I think it has more to do though. Ooh, what's that? Double quotes. What's it doing? What's it thinking? Unique symbol as a sentinel for missing. Missing required keyword argument. Okay. And where is the syntax? I don't see define syntax anywhere. Define syntax, lambda keys. Oh, it just passes the transform straight in. Got it, got it. All right. All right, it's about to try the code out. Exit code 1, unbound variable. Whoa, that's not a variable. That's a string. Hello world, hi Dave. Well, it worked. Look at that. Greet name, greeting. Keys, name, greeting, hello. Doing some more tests. It's already implemented. But it just has that define slash keys. That's fixable though. I think that we can change that. Look, just write a test file that we can keep in the repo. The user wants me to create a test file for keyword arguments that can be kept in the repo. Yeah, no kidding. That's what I just said. Test suite. Got a whole test suite now. Test group. Yep, that's all of it. Let's see. How are we? Okay, yeah, you're calling. You made a function. You're going to call it in different ways. Cool. That's right. And the test passed. So that's it. It implemented that feature in how long was that? 10 minutes maybe? Can we call these define and lambda without the slash keys. Will that work? Even with the C compiler? That's not what I want to ask. Will that still... let's just see what it says. Let's see what it says. It will probably tell me there's a problem with it. I'm curious to see what will happen when it tries it. Yes, let me rename them. Okay. Typically handled by the compiler directly, not as macros, but in the scheme compiler, I can override them with macros to detect the key syntax and transform appropriately. Let's see. Let's see how that works. I'm a little skeptical that it will work. Okay, lambda define work normally? I hope so. That would be awesome if it does work. I need a way to fall back to the primitive without infinite expansion. Yes, exactly. Let me create primitive aliases. Okay. I'm curious to see what it does. See how the scheme compiler handles special forms. Are you going to go too deep now? All right. Lambda exists or needs to be added. Simple solution is keep them as transform names, register them as lambda. Oh, okay. When expanding, use lambda for the primitive. Check if lambda is already recognized by the compiler. No, it's not. You could do that, though. So it basically will export them as the real name, but it won't define them as that name. I'm okay with that. As a primitive form in the C compiler, then make lambda a macro that expands to lambda. Huh. I think it's going to break a bunch of stuff. One time says, how does Claude know to highlight the define and lambda words in its own messages? Is it actually generating markdown with inline code and renders it with syntax highlighting? Yes, it does. CNL Beth. Okay, look, I can't be here longer. I have to go and help with unruly children. Let's see. I'm curious to see if it will work. Let's just, I'll start signing off the stream and then we'll see if it gets there by the end. Hopefully people will think this is interesting. Not the AI part, but the actual language implementation itself. I'm curious to keep working on it because I think that some pretty useful stuff can come out of it. I'm very tempted to use it in game jams. Not the AI part, but the language itself, the tool set, because obviously it solves specific problems that I have. So you'll probably hear more about it as time goes on. Let me know, though, what you think in general about this, you know. Even the AI part of it, let me know what you think about it, because you know, it is a part of the whole process, and it will continue to be a part of the whole process because it enables me to get things done. Now we're back to conversations. So that's a good time to shut off the stream. So anyway, let me know what you think. I will let you know whenever it's actually usable for you. It probably won't take too long until it gets to that point. Certainly like for people to try it out if you were interested to try it out. One Tom says AI part was very interesting too. Yes, well, I'm learning how to use it effectively. It takes some time to get it. Trev says, great job. You're an outstanding developer. Yes, I am. I just use human language, the English language, to tell an AI slave what to do. All right. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate your time and attention. Until next time, happy hacking. I'm using too much AI. Happy hacking. We'll see you later. Goodbye.